All right. Well, I want to first thank everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate that you're here. I'm Graham Thomas. For those of you that don't know me, one of our deputy directors here at tnAchieves, and excited that you could join us today. When we launched Tennessee Promise back in 2014, it was written into the legislation that all of the county mayors or county executives appoint a group called what we call a local advisory council. Really, that serves a couple of purposes for us. So the first of which is they were to provide guidance, open some doors for us as we were navigating some counties that we'd never operated our program in, and that some of us, some counties, I had been to Jackson several times, but several counties we'd never been to. And so we needed some help finding groups of active people to serve as mentors, and then also to serve as a layer of accountability for us, to come back, report out our data, make sure that we were serving students in the 90 communities that we work in to the best of our ability, because we know that what works in Madison County may not work in Gibson County, may not work in Shelby County, right? Even though you're all in the same region, pretty different counties. So wanted to make sure that we are providing you with updates and that we're getting your feedback. So that's what we're going to do today. Going to give you kind of a statewide snapshot as well as a local snapshot. As you can all see, your cameras and microphones are available to you. So as we're going through this today, please feel free to ask questions, interrupt, raise your hand, or just shout them out, or you can save them to the end too. That's fine. So whatever works for you, want to make sure that we get your questions answered before we leave here today. And with that, we'll jump in here. So quick reminder of who we are. tnAchieves is a 501c3 nonprofit that operates Tennessee Promise in 90 counties across the state. Since we launched in Knoxville in 2008, we've worked with more than 440,000 students and 71,000 volunteers, working in more than 600 high schools across the state and with 67 eligible post-secondary institutions. This next slide here is kind of what we call our core components. So the first three have been with us really since this was just an idea on a whiteboard. Tennessee Promise, now the state program that funds last dollar scholarships to our 13 community colleges, our 27 Tennessee colleges of applied technology, and then an additional 27 four-year universities that offer associate degrees. Each student in the 90 counties that we work in is paired with a volunteer mentor that is regularly checking in and providing guidance as students are transitioning from high school to college. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. And then our students get back 8 hours of community service every semester that they receive the scholarship. That was really important to us when we launched the program in 2008. The scholarship back in those days was privately funded by the business community in Knoxville, and we had volunteers making sure students were successful. So we wanted to make sure that that tradition of giving back continued into this next generation. Since then, we have added a couple of additional elements to our program that we think are really essential to the work that we're doing. One of which is our Summer Bridge program that we operate at all 13 community colleges. Operated it at 13 community colleges this summer at 15 sites. So for some of our community colleges with larger service areas, we offer it at a couple of locations. We are just now starting to report out the data on that, but we have an 89% success rate. So students that participate in this program are participating in 3 weeks of their summer, going every day, doing an hour of math, reading, and writing each. They are students that are not testing into college level coursework in at least one subject. 89% of the students that participated this year either improved their scores or tested into college level coursework at the end. So a program that we're really proud of, especially we know that this has been a strange year for students, and having that extra help as they prepare for college, we know it's probably more beneficial than ever. Summer Institute is operated in the urban core of Memphis. It is a summer bridge program on steroids. So it is 6 weeks long. It is actually credit bearing. So students that participate in this require all 3 learning support courses, math, reading, and writing. And they knock out all of those and can earn an additional 9 hours of college credit using the co-requisite model that's across the TBR system now. 29 students participated in that program this year with a 100% success rate. All 29 students knocked out their learning support courses and earned 9 hours of college credit. So a program that we're really excited about, and we're hoping to continue to grow that outside of Memphis here in the near future. Finally, one of the newest parts of our program is the complete coaching model that we have created over the last few years that has identified our most at-risk students in Tennessee, which in Tennessee is our low-income population. So even though we've made college tuition and fee free in Tennessee, our low-income students still don't go to college at rates as high as their peers. And when they go, they don't graduate at rates as high as their peers. And so they are now being assigned to a full-time staff member. Looks like 3 of our coaches in the West Tennessee area are on the call today. Chastity, Esther, and Rosa are all here with us. They are working with this population of students, and I will let you know now that their fall to fall retention is actually outpacing our general population. So no graduation data yet. The program is too new, but showing some really promising signs and something we hope to continue to expand. Some additional stats here on our reach. So I mentioned earlier that we are working in 90 counties, 74 of which are considered rural, 35 of which are considered at risk or distress. Both of those designations from the Department of Economic and Community Development here in Tennessee, and working with 601 high schools. Those are both public, private, and those homeschool cooperatives. 67 colleges, I mentioned that earlier, and you can see kind of a spread of where our students are going. So the vast majority of which are exercising that community college option, almost 80% of them, with the last 21% being pretty evenly split amongst our TCATs and our 4-year colleges that offer those associate degrees and are eligible for Tennessee Promise. So annually, we are working with more than 60,000 high school students that are applying for Tennessee Promise. This was a number we pulled recently, and honestly, I think it was a little shocking to all of us. 89% of all Tennessee high school seniors go through the tnAchieves program. When you factor in the Ayers Foundation working in those other 5 counties, it means that well over 90% of seniors in Tennessee are applying for Tennessee Promise, but 89% of them going through tnAchieves. 78% of all first-time freshmen at the community colleges are in the tnAchieves program, and 86% of community college graduates are tnAchieves students. Yeah, when we started this program in Knoxville 13 years ago with 500 students in Knox County, I think if you had told those of us that have been here since the beginning that one day this would be the scope of our work, we probably would not have believed you. It has been a wild 13 years and just continue to be honored and excited at the scope of the work that we get to do these days. The next level here, you see a little bit more kind of demographic information about our students. So 56% of students are eligible for federal financial aid. What that means is that they qualify for a Pell Grant, which means they come from a low-income household. 40% of students are self-reported first-generation college students. This is a number that is, well, one, there's not a great definition of what it means to be a first-generation college student. We would consider it to be a student who doesn't have either of their parents that graduated from college, but this is self-reported on the FAFSA. I think this number skews a little bit low because only about 40 to 44% of adults in Tennessee have a post-secondary degree. So the fact that 40% of students are reporting their first generation probably skews low, but it's the best information that we have. And then 51% of our students are majoring in either a health science or a STEM related field. So that means that those are the most in-demand career opportunities here in Tennessee, which means that our students are going to graduate with a credential that will help place them in a job and find meaningful employment. $32 million is what the state pays in the annual scholarship cost. The average award for students comes out to about $1,100 for the students that are receiving Tennessee Promise. And then our program, again, privately funded, operating at about $2.5 million annually. So let's dive into some of our local benchmarks here. First big benchmark is the FAFSA filing number. So 2 years ago, our FAFSA filing rate in Tennessee with Tennessee Promises was 90%, took a little dip with COVID. I think what we saw there is students, just not as many students were in class, right? Many of them exercising a virtual opportunity. Our 2 largest school districts were completely virtual, being in Nashville and Memphis. Counselors just weren't able to target students like they were before, go pull them out of class. certainly want to get these Madison County numbers back up, 12% below the state average this year. Going to work real hard to make sure that we are continuing to move that number in the right direction. And specifically here in Madison County, want to see those numbers rise. Our community service number, 3.4, almost 3.4 million hours of community service completed now across the state. Almost 35,000 of those hours completed in Madison County. Our board chairman, Randy Boyd, says that this makes us the largest community service organization in Tennessee. No one has raised their hand yet to say that that is inaccurate, so we're going to run with it until someone does. No clue if it's true or not, but it is a number that we are really proud of, that number. And hopefully, Heather, and those of you at Jackson State, you're seeing some of that work done on campus or at the TCAT there right next door, or maybe in our local school systems and with the local nonprofits. Hopefully, you're seeing that benefit. So next, let's look at our student progress. So this application and retention number from 2019, and the graduation rate is from your class of 2017. So 861 students applied for the scholarship in the class of 2019 in Madison County, almost 230 of which enrolled at an eligible post-secondary institution, receiving the benefit of Tennessee Promise. You can see your first year retention rate, just a couple ticks below the state average there, 65%. So what that means is that of all of those 229 that started their freshman year, 65% of them came back for their sophomore year, still using Tennessee Promise. And then your 3-year graduation rate there at 30%, a little bit below the state average. Would certainly like to continue to dig in and see that number improve. We got a couple things that we're doing there. Statewide though, let's look at some numbers and then we'll talk about what we're doing to increase these numbers. So your first year retention for any student starting at a community college as a first-time full-time freshman is 53%. So again, 53% of students that started at community college come back in the fall. If you're a tnAchieves student at an eligible institution, that's 67%. And if you're a tnAchieves student at any college, it's 74%. So that number is students that are going to college using Promise, and also those that aren't, but students that were given a mentor, that received FAFSA help, that had availability to our staff, that we helped in some form or fashion. 6-year graduation rate, you see for students that start at a community college, it's 35%. And for our students that start at community college, it's 51%. It's kind of hard to get excited and celebrate a 51% 6-year graduation rate. But when we started the program 13 years ago, the 3-year graduation rate at community colleges was only about 14%. The 6-year wasn't a whole lot higher than that. So we're making progress. We're going to continue to dig in on that number. We've got a new program we're launching that's going to help students transfer. That's brand new to us. And here's some other things that we're doing. So I already talked about our success rate with the summer programs, but students that participate in the summer programs increase their first year retention by 34%. So not only are the summer programs successful in the mission of getting students ready for college, students that participate are more successful once they begin. Students that are being coached in our complete program are increasing their first year retention by 23%. And then we have a new program in Knoxville. It is funded by a private donation. So across the state, the students that are being coached are that at-risk, low-income population. In Knoxville, every single Knox County high school graduate gets a coach. And we have what we call completion grant funding. It may be more familiar to some of you as emergency grant funding, but essentially we are able to help those students pay for their books, to pay for their travel. We can help food insecure students pay grocery bills. We have some homeless students we paid for transitional housing. We've paid utility bills for families, showing a lot of promise there. You can see increasing that first year retention by 42%. Through the pandemic, it has actually been Pellissippi State's highest retaining population. So some really promising data there. And it's something that we're working to take across the state. So the General Assembly, we're really grateful for their support, actually allocated $250,000 in completion grant funding for us this year. That email went out to eligible students yesterday. So we are going to be able to offer that completion grant funding. Not quite at the level we're able to do in Knoxville. We just have more money there and a smaller group of students, but we do have some of that this year. Going to continue to work with the General Assembly, hopefully to expand that, maybe some additional completion grant funding, and also some additional funding for coaching. So up until this slide, the data has been very positive, and then this one comes and kind of rains on our parade a little bit. So you can see from 2014 to 2015, which was the launch of Tennessee Promise, we increased the college going rate by 4.6%, which was more than the previous 7 years combined. Continued on an upward trend for a couple of years, plateaued a little bit in 18 and 19, and then COVID hit and our numbers went down significantly. Went down almost 5 full percentage points, basically erasing the gains that we've made over the last 5 years. And when we're looking at Madison County, you can see that that trend continued here. Unfortunately, it looks like about 5.5 percentage points or so, a decrease in your college going rate. This is a number that we certainly are going to dig deep on in the coming year. Try to get that number back up in the low 60s where we think it should be. Students that did not go to college last year but maintain their eligibility with Tennessee Promise could go back this fall. We had several hundred of them have done all the steps. Hopefully they showed up yesterday on campus for the first day of classes. But you can see that Madison County fell victim to the same trend. And we certainly are going to do a deep dive, not only in Madison County, but across the state, trying to get these numbers back up. There are some things, though, that you can do to help us with this. First, if you've never served as a mentor before, we would love to have you. Quick reminder of what those roles look like. So we really say that our mentors fill 3 gaps for our students. One is they are that task manager, reminding students of important deadlines, making sure they're completing their admissions files. I always say making progress towards college while remaining eligible for the scholarship. 2, you're that trusted resource that they can reach out to when they have a question, when they don't know what the next step is, when they get a letter from financial aid and they don't know what it means. You're that person they can reach out to, call, text, or email and get the answer. And then finally, I've been saying for the last 13 years, it's probably the most important piece, I would say, as we continue to navigate some fairly uncertain times, that the encouragement piece is more important than ever. Just said, hey, you can do this. And yeah, it's a little uncertain out there right now. And I think having really honest conversations about anyone who's ever gone to college before has struggled at some point in time. I struggled in the math class. Other students struggle writing papers. We have students that are working full-time and going to school full-time. And just that, if you've ever gone to college, it gets hard, and that's normal, and that our mentors are there to kind of walk side by side with them, and then our coaches are as well. So if you mentored with us this year, you know that we invested in a virtual platform called tnAchieves Connect that allowed students and mentors to video chat, much like what we're doing right now. Still could call, text, and email. It also provided an additional level of tracking that our mentors have never had before. You could see when students applied, you could see when they enrolled full-time, you could see when they submitted their community service hours. Really positive feedback on the Connect platform. That will be with us again in 2022 and available for all of our mentors to use. If you mentored with us previous to this year, you remember those large high school meetings where we all gathered in the cafeteria. They were large, crowded, kind of hot. We're going to do away with those. In 2022, you're going to have Connect, and then we're going to have a couple of in-person options for you. First, we're going to host what we call open houses. We are going to attempt to host these at college campuses across the state, where we will block off 3 or 4 hours during a day where you can invite your students to come, sit down, you can meet them. There will be a tnAchieves team member there that will be available to answer questions or help you with anything that comes up. We're going to hope that the colleges will provide some staff to help students apply or finish up admissions files if students are missing things. And then we're also going to encourage students and mentors to meet together on their own. We've never really encouraged that a whole lot before, but it has been happening. Randy takes his students out for pizza every year. We had a mentor this past summer that essentially ran her own bridge program with a student. She set up a table in her yard outside under a tree and got her students ready for the placement exam. She offered some essentially tutoring in math and English. So try to keep that commitment at about an hour a month, 12 hours a year. But we surveyed our mentors and they told us that 2/3 of them told us that they want an in-person option. So we're coming up with a couple of different things. The program will look different than it ever has before. Locally in Madison County, we need 130 people. Madison County is the county where we usually meet our goal. I need to give a big shout out to the Chamber of Commerce. Commerce there is really active. The college is also really active, but we could use your help. If you have not mentored with us, you can visit tnAchieves.org/mentors. Complete a new mentor application. If you have mentored with us before, you can go on there, do a quick returning application, or just reply to any of the emails that we send you, and we can get you in the system for next year. But really want to make sure that we have this support system for students as we continue to navigate this pandemic and try to get that college going rate back up where we think it should be in the low to mid 60s. Other things you can do to help us out. If you are involved with a group in your community, we would love to come and talk about our program and share the mentoring opportunities. So Rotary, Kiwanis, visited those clubs in your community before. We'd be happy to come back. We can also provide you with any type of email content that you might like. So you can shoot that out to your networks. If you shoot us an email at mentors@tnAchieves.org, we will provide you with that content. All you've got to do is send it out to your friends, family, coworkers, whoever that might be. Or if you are on some type of newsletter distribution, we can write a newsletter piece for you. Be happy to do that, but we're ready to share the story and make sure we have enough mentors for the class of 2022. And then additionally, the scholarship application is available for students. Like I mentioned earlier, more than 90% of students across the state are applying for the scholarship. Our school counselors do a wonderful job getting this opportunity to them. But if you know a family with a senior, never hurts to give them that one final reminder. That is all of the presentation that I have for you today. Hope you found this useful and informative. And again, we're really appreciative that you're here because we've said this for years now, but our program really is only as successful as the community allows us to be. And so the fact that you're here means a lot to us. I'm happy. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can see everybody. But I am happy to take any questions that you have, comments, feedback, anything. Want to make sure you feel prepared before we leave here today. Anyone? All right. Well, if you do think of a question or something, you can always give me a call or shoot me an email. And thanks again so much for being here today. It really means a lot. The community has always been so supportive in Madison County. It is not a county where I'm ever looking at our mentor dashboard and super worried about it. And just appreciate everything you do for us.
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. Good
Thank
afternoon,
you,
everyone.